Welcome, everybody, to Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul. Today is April the 4th, Friday, April the 3rd, 2020. And with me once again from Orange Beach is Paul Brees. I'm Adam Freeman coming to you not from the beach, but Paul was making me jealous with his background, so I decided to get one of my own. Coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. Brees, how we doing tonight?
Fabulous, man. Every day's a great day to wake up down here.
Definitely looks like it, even though that's probably not the view out your window, but it's probably pretty close. If I know you, it's probably pretty close.
Well, the water and the sand is the same. The people are not out there.
That is a good thing. We just started our shelter in place this evening at 6 p.m. here in Georgia, and there were people posting pictures of empty streets, which I think that's what was intended. So hopefully we can get ahead of this thing. And speaking of sheltering in place and a lot of things, sports on the back burner. So I think a lot of people at this point have done about all the yard work they can do. And you see more people out walking and riding bikes now and just single people doing that. So at night, things kind of calm down. So a lot of people are binge watching a lot of shows nowadays. I know I am. And so my daughter, Abby, and her boyfriend, Jacob, they said, "Have you seen this show, Tiger King? It's all the rage." I was like, "Tiger King? I don't know. It looks kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know if I get into that sort of thing." So Jacob, her boyfriend, is like, "Look, you got just watch. If you can get through the first two episodes, they're kind of slow, and then it just gets crazy." And I'm like, "How crazy can it get? I mean, it's about a guy who has tigers, keeps tigers or whatever. It can't be that bad." And then I told you I was watching, and you were like, "Oh man, Tiger King! Oh, it's awesome." So I mean, the thing about it is, everybody that's going to be listening to this will have probably seen it because it's the number one rated show in the U.S. on Netflix right now. So I guarantee everybody has seen this show. It is so bizarre, just every aspect of it. From the three-person wedding, to the just the whole compound, the people that work there. What was it to you that stood out as just being over the top, out of control?
Yeah, obviously the big thing for me was I was hoping that they would find Carol Baskin's husband somehow, somewhere, the remains.
Yeah.
And that she would be locked up.
Yeah, I think that's the general consensus of the American public right now, is that Carol Baskin is public enemy number one because of that show. And to me, the more the show went on, it was like, okay, she's going after this guy because she says he's inhumane to these animals, and he beats them and he abuses them and he sells them for profit, which we know he did. But she did the exact same thing. Her and her millionaire husband did the exact same thing. They were breeding cubs, selling them, and then all of a sudden she's got a huge problem with him doing it. And so she's just comes off to me as a massive hypocrite. And she's using the same. First of all, she doesn't even pay her staff. Her staff is all volunteers. And she I don't want to say, I guess, coerces them, but convinces them to volunteer out of the goodness of their heart to save the animals. And, for the animals' benefit, and just paints this picture of Joe Exotic as he's the ultimate bad guy.
Who would have thought, Adam, that a blue shirt would have been a big deal? There's a level of colors of shirts with the Carol Baskin big cat rescue,
Yeah, a
hierarchy of shirts, man.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, kind of like in school when you have like freshmen or at our school, freshmen might be white, sophomores are, green, seniors are blue or whatever, all those different things when they have their class shirts or whatever. Yeah, the whole shirt caste system employed by Carol Baskin and that whole ordeal, but just very, very strange how it came about. Here's the thing, like the amount of money that just needed to feed these animals on a yearly basis. I mean, we're talking about like $1 million a year. And another thing that was just like crazy to me is So he feeds them, like, he goes to Walmart and gets the cast-offs, like stuff that people take up and they can't pay for and that goes back or it's expired or whatever and they can't sell it. They go and pick it up. And then the park employees pick through the truck prior to tossing it in the dumpster to give it to the animals, which is just like, they're like, wait, man, that's still frozen. Oh man, this still smells good. I mean, and that's their dinner. It's like, I mean, it's like a whole other world of just craziness and just the amount of money on legal fees and then she gets his parents involved and it's just all kinds of crazy. I mean, shooting guns, riding 4-wheelers, the drug culture in the park and just, I mean, and then
the funny part is, go
ahead.
I was going to say that the big thing that I thought was, one of the big things that was shocking to me was the supposed first husband, the guy that didn't have a lot of teeth, Joe's original guy.
Yeah, the meth.
He turns out that. Yeah, he turns out, he's not really he's not gay, and he is actually has a fiance that he's about to marry, a young lady. And,
it's amazing. You see the pictures from back then, and then as the meth addiction increases, the teeth decrease at an equal rate, I think. And
we saw him on I saw him recently on I think it's David Spade or something, and he's got a full set of teeth now.
I think probably
now looks normal. Now David Spade
rehab
was Joe Dirt, correct?
Yes, very much. Is this guy's
right?
Joe
David
Dirt.
Spade played Joe Dirt, right?
Oh yeah, this guy's Joe Dirt.
Yeah. So if there's ever a motion picture, David Spade is going to be the guy.
Oh, there's
plays Joe Exotic.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. Now we had a little version of Joe Exotic in our neighborhood, did we not? I believe there was a certain acquaintance of ours that had a jungle cat in his backyard. Am I right?
It's on General MacArthur?
Yeah. He had like a cougar or something back there.
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's correct.
He lived right down from Cottrell's house.
That's right.
Yeah, he had a freaking mountain lion back there. So that'll definitely keep the neighborhood kids away.
That's what they say. You'd be surprised. You could look over at your neighbor, and they may have a tiger back there. And
who knows?
Who knows? I mean, obviously in Oklahoma, who would have thought? But
yeah.
And the funny thing is, they said that they have enough footage that there could be another season of this whole thing come out later.
Wow.
That the producer of Tiger King is looking at things that are going to possibly come out that will, obviously, if you mentioned Joe Exotic, it's going to be entertaining itself.
Oh, absolutely. And the guy that came to supposedly bail him out, dude, how's he not in prison? How is the guy who took $3,000 to go down to Florida and kill this woman, how is he just sitting there getting interviewed?
Hey, not only that, Adam, but interviewed in a bathtub.
Yeah.
Right?
With his shorts on.
Oh man.
That
was probably one of the best scenes. It's one of the best scenes in the whole place when he's interviewed in his bathtub.
The bathtub.
Which looks like, it looks like a Hart bathtub from an Atlantic City hotel. I mean, they just, they're probably trying to demolish a hotel, and
where you got like mirrors on the ceiling and a change dispenser on the bed, one of those deals. Holy cow, it was pretty backwards. Yeah. But that scene, and then when one of his husbands shot himself, and his funeral, and him going and having this production and singing, and like, that's just bizarre. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, just kind of really, that's just that.
God was a showman, man.
Man, he was a
He
showman.
loved to perform.
Through and through. Now he's in a
the
cage
good news is,
now he's in a cage with coronavirus. You know,
and that's the whole irony of the whole thing, that he's now caged up. I don't know if that was the analogy that was going to be tried to set by Netflix, but you know, now he's pinned up and caged up. And
now he is the animal, and he's the one that he's basically had been said in some of those phone conversations. Hey, I'm being treated worse than I treated any of the cats that I had. So, I mean, who wouldn't want to pet a baby tiger? I'm in. I'd pet a baby tiger. Sure. Why not?
Hey, how about this? How about even voting for Joe Exotic as president?
Listen, that's another thing. He got 19% of the vote for governor in Oklahoma. 19%. That means 1 out of every 5 voters voted for him. Golly Moses. Whew.
I love it. Man, I love it.
Man,
very entertaining.
Craziness. Very entertaining stuff. It was. I wish it had lasted 7 more episodes. I would have watched 7 more. I would definitely watch a season 2. No doubt about it.
Well, when he gets out of jail, there's definitely going to be something coming up.
Well, if he's still alive, hopefully he makes it out. He's in there for 22 years. Parole will probably be 5, 3, 5, 6, whatever. But he's sick. He's got coronavirus right now.
Oh, really? Is that official?
Yeah. You didn't know that? Yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And he's in isolation right now in the prison. So, so he's ill right now. So prayers for Joe Exotic. But yeah, we're going to talk about a couple things too. We just want to start the show out with that just because it's so outlandish and everybody's talking about it. But since Brees and I are both teachers and, I don't know if Tennessee's officially shut down schools for the year.
Not yet.
Yeah. I would imagine that it's probably close. Georgia, Governor Brian Kemp did that on Wednesday. And, obviously we were, taken aback. We were devastated. We thought we were going to get to go back, maybe the 27th of April. That's not going to happen now. So you got all these seniors in limbo, students in limbo. We're trying to pick up the pieces and try to get them the content they need. But it gave Paul and I a chance to reflect on how things are different now than when we went to school in a couple different ways. The first way is the grading scale. What's it like at your school? What is the grading scale at your school right now?
10-point system, 90 to 100.
Okay. See, that's the way ours is now. And a 90 is a 4.0, just like a 98 is a 4.0. Yeah.
And there's a small window for a D. It's a 70-71 is a D.
Oh, wow.
So under 70 is an F.
Yeah, I think ours is under 7. It's like 70 to 74 is a D, and then 74 to 79 is a C, and then 80 to 89 is a B, 90 to 100 is an A. Now, see, back when, at least at Brentwood High School where I went, I don't know how it was. We'll see how it was at Lipscomb, but I mean, to get an A, a legit A, you had to get a 94.
That's it. That's what we had to get.
If you had an A was 97 to 100. Excuse me.
That's right. Correct.
An A minus was a 93 or 92 to 96 was an A minus.
Yeah.
If you got under a 92, that was a B. An 88 to 92 was a B plus.
Right.
I mean, you think about that when you're calculating GPAs back then, and I wasn't. I mean, I had, like a 3.3 or whatever. But if I had
well, listen, Adam, I'm going to tell you that was the least of my worries. GPA. But you talk about it. I mean, if you're talking now, I mean, the kids at my kids' schools, obviously not my personal kids, but they have a shot like at a 4.5, for AP courses. And, I don't remember that stuff in a high school. And obviously, probably because if there was one, they didn't tell me about it because I wasn't going to qualify.
Yeah.
But
they
I don't know. What did they have AP courses in?
Here's what they had at Brentwood. I can tell you this. They had, now, again, we were on 7-period day. Okay. So you had the same class your entire freshman year, then you would have 7, So your AP classes were your languages. You had AP French, AP Spanish, and AP Latin, and then you had AP U.S. history, which you could take as a junior, which I didn't take. I didn't take any AP classes in high school. But the foreign language stuff, you could only do that. I mean, you only had to have 2 years of language back then. So
Right.
I took French 1, French 2, freshman, sophomore year. And I didn't want to take French 3 because everybody told me it was hard. So I didn't take it. And then I took German my senior year because it was new. And I have a German background. So I kind of had my own genealogical cheat sheet. My grandmother speaks fluent German. And so I thought that if I ever went over there, that would be something that I could use. But so I just took German 1. But those language classes were very small. We're talking 8, 10 kids, maybe, that decided to take language all the way through. So you had very few kids. So you probably, even if you had all A's and you took AP US history with Miss Baird, if you took that, I mean, maybe your GPA was 4.08 or maybe 4.1, maybe, when you average it all out. So these nowadays, I think our valedictorian at Harrison last year had, I think, a 4.667 GPA. And our salutatorian was like, 2/10 of a point, or 2/10 of a point under, or 2 100ths under that. So yeah, it's crazy what the complexity and the level of courses that these kids take now. They're just so much more complex than they were when we were going
Right.
through there. But yeah, you see those higher GPAs now. That's not the only thing that's changed. The second thing that's way different is the whole discipline, the whole school discipline deal. I mean, back when we were growing up, I mean, you could get paddled in elementary school, middle school, and high school. You could get it in all 3 levels if you were that sort of dude. Okay. Now, I never got paddled. I mean, I got detention once. I got suspended for 1 period. For that's a story for another time. That was I got railroaded on that whole deal. But I did. But great paddling story that I will always remember was 5th grade, Miss Washington. I had her for like a math class or something. And you remember John White, don't you?
Yes.
You remember John? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
his mom taught 4th grade at Lipscomb Elementary, and he was a little bit of a problem child because he just has so much energy. And I remember one time he did something, and Miss Washington just couldn't handle it anymore. And she goes, and she's like, John White, you come here. So he like runs out of the room, and he runs into the bathroom, the boys' bathroom on the 5th grade hallway, and she chases him in the bathroom with the paddle. Okay. And we can hear because her room is right. I mean, the bathroom is right on the other side of the concrete wall from her room. So you got about 25 5th graders just with their ear up to the wall, and you can hear through, they had those long radiators that ran through the bathroom, through all the way down the outside walls, and you could hear the whole conversation through the radiator. And she's yelling at him. She's like, John White, you come here, boy, you stop running around. So she gets him. She goes, you put your hands on that radiator, you turn around. So he's got, I'm just envisioning this happening, that he's got his hands on the wall, the outside wall, like in front of the radiator. And all of a sudden we're listening, and all of a sudden you just hear this, and this just vibration, and this just like, it sounded like an explosion. And she goes to paddle him, and she rears back, and he moves, and she slams into that radiator, and he takes off down the hallway. We see him run by the classroom thinking he's going to get away. And Mr. Franks, who was our principal, whose office was right there at the front, just jerked him up with one hand. And he knew his goose was cooked at that point. And but man, I will never forget that, hearing that sound and turn, and everybody went to the hallway to watch Miss Washington. She comes marching out of that bathroom with that big, huge paddle, and she is just steaming, man. So he got his, but he got it from Mr. Franks, not Mrs. Washington. So he probably should have just stayed put. Now you have a little bit different vantage point from that, because you weren't taking it so much as dishing it out at one of your places that you taught. Is that correct?
Well, that is correct. If I didn't say that I never got paddled, I'd be lying, because when I was a sophomore in high school, Coach Goff, who taught world history and Bible at Lipscomb, pulled me out of the hall, and I was tardy for his class for, I don't know, maybe third, fourth time, I don't know. And I guess he just got tired of writing me up, and he just said, "Here, man, I'm gonna paddle you." I was like, "What?" And so I took one for that, and that was a lesson learned and never late again, right?
Exactly. And you're no idiot.
Yeah, sure. And
it's the kids that are always getting padded. You're like, dude, what are you, a sadist? What, do you enjoy pain? It's like, no. At what point do you not get this, right?
I got it. Lesson learned.
One time.
Yeah. So obviously, when I started teaching in a private school in Nashville, and
this was what, 94?
1990, 94. Yeah.
Okay.
And another longtime friend of mine and I started the same time, and we joked around. The principal told us, said, "Yeah, you can, here are ways to discipline," and paddling was one of the options. So we came up with this plan to say, whoever can make myself and I'll say his name. He didn't care. Coach Mooneyham. Who's down. Yeah. And we said, Coach Mooneyham and I, whoever can make us a paddle and bring it in, you will be exempt from any paddles.
Were there certain specifications that it had to
there
meet?
There were specifications, yeah.
Were there any holes in this paddle for
there were 3 holes.
Oh,
3 holes.
That. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Rivers at Lipscomb had one of those.
We had a young man come in. He made a fantastic paddle. He branded an eagle on it because that was our mascot. And on the other side, he branded the letters "Big Guy." And that was the name of the paddle. And so anybody ever got in trouble, you're going to take a lick from Big Guy. So
what is the relative thickness of this paddle? And what was it made out of? What type of wood?
2 inches, and it's
2 inches.
Sturdy wood, my friend, sturdy wood. And this guy even put
with a grip finger.
Yeah,
oh,
he even put tape on it.
He took some time with this.
He took some time, and this young man has gone on to he's in the country music writing industry, and has actually won some Grammys.
Oh wow!
For writing songs, and so he's made a name for himself. He was already someone ahead of the curve. I mean, the creativity, right?
Yeah,
the paddle.
Right. Look, he knew he didn't want to be, a part of the receiving end, so he's going to get in front of that. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So then the running joke was, okay, if you're going to take a paddle from Coach Brees or Coach Mooneyham, you get to sign the paddle. And we had a few people that had multiple times on the paddle, but it was not a fun thing. I mean, but 94, you never were worried about what are their parents going to think. What do we need to get approval?
Right.
My principal was just like, hey, if they deserve it, go ahead, let them take one. So
was it one lick or was it a series of licks?
No, it was just one. It was just one.
Okay.
And
yeah, I mean, at that point, like, you kind of get your point across. If you can't get your point across with one swift blow, then you're not doing it right.
And then in 1998, I started teaching at another private school, but I was an elementary PE teacher. And I was the only male in the building. And all of a sudden, I became the designee paddler for the elementary school.
So you're the executioner.
Yeah. Yeah. Morning traffic duty and paddler. But I'll never forget, I had to paddle, it's something about teachers' kids, preachers' kids. They feel a lot of comfort, and they act up a little more than they probably should, knowing they feel like they're safe or whatever, because their parents are in the building. So hey, this one coach and his son, he goes, man, let him have it. I said, are you sure? He said, give him 2. So, what am I supposed to do, right? I'm the guy. So
you're just going to do your job, man.
Paddling was not a fun part of my job. Obviously, there are times, and obviously maybe as well as you, but in the middle school level, you think, man, if I can only send a message to one of these kids, the rest of these kids would definitely follow suit and understand. But no, that's not the case.
and fall in line accordingly.
Sure.
Doing so, but and that was back then, and those days are long gone. I mean, long gone. It's gotten to a point now where it's like you have to refresh your sort of your rule book. What is allowed, what is not allowed, what's the policy, and it's everything is a policy now.
Sure.
I want to say my 3rd or 4th year, we still have in school suspension, right, for and most of the kids at my school for in school suspension, it's like excessive tardies. That's where you would have been at my school. You would have been in there. Oh, by the way, having all of your assignments sent to you. Okay, so it's basically like a 6.5, 7 hour study hall. But you got to be there, and you got to serve that time. And most of it's 1 day to 2 days or whatever. We do still have out of school suspension, but about my 4th year in, they started instituting a out of school suspension. You can make up your work. So you get suspended for fighting. It's an automatic 10 day. That's 2 weeks. Still get your work. Still do your work. Still take your tests. So if you got suspended back in our day, like that's when I got suspended for my 1 period, I was like, I can't be suspended for 2 days, like, because that's what they wanted to do to me for talking in study hall, for crying out loud, if you can believe that. And I was like, my grades will be shot in 2 days, because I'll get zeros for everything in those 2 days. Not anymore. So I think the discipline is much more lax. But here's the thing. Here's one of the things that I think we benefit from being males in education is our presence. I think that makes a big difference. Like I can disarm a situation very quickly by stopping class, and I haven't had to do this that much. I mean, maybe 5 times my entire career, because I've been lucky. I have really good kids. I have really good classes, and I teach at a good school. That for no other reason than that. But every now and then, you got to make a statement, and there's got to be a sacrificial lamb. And I'm not afraid to make an example of someone. But if I stop class and I'm like, Paul Brees, let's go talk in the hallway. And if we go out in the hallway, and we talk, we have a conversation, I just lay it down. Look, this is between me and you right now. Let's get this cleared up. I was like, I'll always say, I'm not writing you up. I said, if this continues, I said, you'll get a parent phone call and you'll get discipline from me, which doesn't happen that much. I said, so I'm giving you your shot. This is your one warning. It's the only warning you'll get. And when I go back in there and they go back in there, that whole class is like a bunch of choir boys for like a week. because they're afraid to even breathe funny or do anything out of line. So that's my method. I don't know. It's probably a little more chaotic in your arena because it's outside of the classroom, you're in the gym a lot and that sort of thing. What's your method as we kind of wrap up this show?
Yeah, I would say that the louder I get, they definitely know there's a problem.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty, the older we get, it's just a lot of expended energy. And we don't want to do that anymore, right?
Well, it's a matter of, like, let's fight the battles I can win.
Correct. And so I try to reason with them.
Yeah.
And then when it gets to a certain level, I have to raise my voice, and then they know, okay, he's serious.
Yeah, he's not playing around. He really wasn't kidding when he told me to put up my phone. Yeah, and that's the biggest thing for me is I am not going to win that battle.
No.
I can't compete with this little device right here. Okay. Correct. It's much more entertaining than I am. I recognize that. I'm not arrogant enough to think that it's not. But if I say, hey, let's put those up, and then you put it up and I see it, I mean, that's insubordination to me, and that's you just kicking dirt in my face.
Right.
And so then we have a problem. But I don't get that very much. My kids are very compliant. They understand that I have basic rules and I don't go overboard with my rules. I figure the fewer rules you have, the more likely they are to get complied with. So that's just my philosophy. So no food, no drink, no cell phones. Treat everybody with respect. It's pretty simple. So
there you go.
And everything else, all the other policies and rules of the county and the school, they all seem to, if those four things are done, then the ship just sails right on through. And there's no problems, which I know you like no problems.
I like no problems.
I like no problems.
For sure.
Too. Yeah. But,
hey, work lesson, marriage lesson. I don't want any problems.
No problems. No problems.
All right, man.
All right, man. Well, good hooking up with you. I'm glad everybody that's listening, glad we can bring you guys another edition of Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul. This has been Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul for Friday, April the 3rd, 2020. Will you see you guys on the flip side?